I shall not lie about it. The Sly Cooper series holds a spot near and dear to my heart. It was one of the first few games that I owned on the PS2, way back when I was starting out as a gamer. Yet because of this, I find it high time that I critique the characters of these three main games. Mainly because Sly 4 is a beast that is best tackled separately from the original trilogy. Sly Cooper began its life as yet another PlayStation mascot platformer, developed by Sucker Punch Productions on their own proprietary engine. The first game was released in 2002, and the series took off on the PS2, getting two sequels, Sly 2 in 2004 and Sly 3 in 2005. The series was then passed to Sanzaru Games for them to release the fourth game in 2013. There were also two comic books published by DC in order to publicize the second and third games. Heck, there was even a film in the works at one point, but no thanks to Ratchet & Clank, that was ultimately cancelled. Though there are hopes for a TV series. Yet all this poses a single question. What makes the Sly Cooper series good? Personally, I think it's the characters. The cast of the series is full of personality, charm, and wit, which turns an already fun game into an incredible series. So without further ado, let's get into the characters. Sly Cooper went through many early designs, yet there were several elements that always stayed the same. First of which was his color palette, which mainly consists of his blue shirt, his golden cane, and a red backpack, or satchel for the really early design. Most would be satisfied with having the character be a sneaky raccoon, and just call it a day with the character design. But what really pushes the personality of Sly beyond is his in-game animations. He doesn't just jump, he leaps, flips, spins, and tightrope rocks across the locales in the games. He is the most nimble member of the Cooper gang, and the games really sell that feeling through both the animation and his gameplay. Sucker Punch set out to make a character that felt like playing a master thief, and they really pulled that off, especially towards the second and third games. In a vacuum, Sly is already an entertaining character. He has a sharp wit that comes across very well in his dialogue. He always has a clever line to mock his opponent, or bring some levity to the situation. Though when he drops the act, it's either for a more heartfelt moment, or when serious shit is about to go down. Over the original trilogy, Sly does go through an interesting arc. If there is a single through line that can be taken from the trilogy, it's that he truly learns to appreciate his allies. Yes, I'm actually saying the big narrative thread spun throughout the series is the power of friendship. But the series does it better than making it a stock shonen power-up like some other series. While the first game really focused on his own personal development about recovering his heritage and proving himself worthy of carrying the family legacy, towards the end of the game, his friends come together to beat clockwork, beginning the threat, which will be continued as we go on. As for his variant designs, well, he's a master of disguise, so much that later games made it kind of his shtick. It's little wonder that even 6 years after his last major game, that Sly is still one of Sony's most iconic franchises. Seriously, he's one of the PS4 user icons despite having absolutely no games on the system.
Almighty.
Bentley is the brains of the Cooper gang. Unsurprisingly, his primary color is green. Not just because he's a turtle, but because neon green is often associated with technology. At least when it's not blue Tron lines or apple white. That said, he also has a secondary color, which is blue. And you'll see that's a color motif that represents the Cooper gang as a whole. Now, his outfit changes extremely over the course of the trilogy, mainly because he goes through a lot of trials and character growth over the series. First, he was in a very textbook nerd getup with a bow tie and glasses. He dresses more casually because he's not out in the field like Sly, instead preferring to play support with some occasional hacking to help out the thief. Come the second game, he's grown some confidence and has gotten himself some armor and a crossbow. Though most of the second game, Bentley slowly begins to gain even more confidence in his ability, culminating with the episode Jailbreak, which is exactly what you think it is. Though, before we go over his design in the third game, we have to talk about what happens at the end of Sly 2. During the final mission of the second game, Bentley pries the hate chip out of the defeated Clockla. We'll get to that later. But before he can get to safety, the owl's jaws clamp down on him, crippling his legs. Come the third game, he has bounced back with a vengeance. Not only is he in a wheelchair, but he's souped it out with rocket boosters, bomb-throwing arms, and a fishing rod because everyone in the main trio can kind of pickpocket in this game. Bentley really becomes the team's rock in the third game. A lot of what happens in the third game would never be if Bentley wasn't there. Plus, there are a few characters that involve him that I'll get to a bit later. Sly may be the face of the gang, but Bentley is also kind of the heart of the group.
Almighty!
Murray, or as he would later call himself, the Murray, is a pink hippo that wears a blue shirt. Again, Cooper gang colors. Like Bentley, he gets design changes as the series progresses. Though there isn't much to his outfit in the first game, as he was relegated to being a side character that was only featured in a few very irritating missions. The second game was arguably his biggest change. He's now got an outfit that's a lot like a masked wrestler, which makes sense because he can fight now. That's right, he's the muscle of the group. With the new outfit comes a bombastic personality that's almost at odds with his earlier version, though it's a welcome change. Technically, he retains the outfit in the third game, but there's a little bit of a catch. During the time between 2 and 3, Murray left the gang because of what happened to Bentley, blaming himself for what happened. So, for the first episode of the game, he was in his aboriginal garb and was a pacifist for most of the missions, until Don Octavio punched Bentley, to which Murray snapped and returned, fists flying. His arc isn't as good as Sly's or Bentley, but he's a solid character that really rounds out the group.
Alright.
Inspector Carmelita Montoya Fox is a cop who is associated with Interpol. Her color scheme is Split's complementary palette, with dark blues in her undersuit and hair, contrasting with her yellow to brown jacket and her orange fur. It should also be noted that the dark blues are also associated with authority, mainly the police. The fact that she's a fox is somewhat ironic, as foxes, most of the time, were often tricksters in old stories. To say the least, she does not fit that animal stereotype. As for the modern take, well, let's just say that there is a considerable amount of fan art of her. Lieutenant Vixen all over again. Her characterization is at once simple and complicated. On one hand, she's a police officer who is constantly chasing after the Cooper gang. Bring them to justice and all that jazz. However, throughout the entire series, there has been a romantic thread that progresses at the end of each game, with the third ending in Sly feigning amnesia to be with Carmelita. And in all fairness, she did fib about him being a constable, so blame's on both, okay? That said, she is more than just a romantic interest. In both the first and second games, she does play a crucial part in defeating Clockwork permanently, the irony of which is not lost on Sly. She also has some really standout moments in the third game, the best of which was taking on Mudshot without any of that mirror BS in the first game. She's no slouch, it's just that the Cooper gang busts criminals faster than her, and she just kinda shows up to take the glory. Also, she was originally called Chase Fox, but that name was way too on the nose.
Awesome!
Okay, so we're about to go into rapid fire mode, with some characters getting some elaboration because there are a lot of characters in this trilogy, and we can't spend all of our time picking apart absolutely every last one of them. Raleigh, if he wasn't the first boss in the first game, I would have forgotten he ever existed.
Cool!
Mugshot. This is why you don't skip leg day. Also, I liked his appearance in the third game.
Blast!
Ms. Ruby. I detest rhythm games, especially ones that are out of sync.
Bravo!
Panda King. He went from a one-note villain in the first game to a compelling character in the third.
Alright!
Ooh boy, Clockwork. First of all, this guy is not on the same level of anthropomorphism that all the other characters are. He is far more feral than anyone else. And this really shows just how old Clockwork is. The other thing that really got me was its sound design. In the second game, when you were flying around in the last stage, there was this sense of danger that was hammered home with the sound of their wings ringing in the background. Whenever you went out of the safe house, your eyes were always looking out for that metallic owl. Couple that with just how the two games built up Clockwork as the greatest foe of the Coopers, that terrorized the clan from ancient, if not prehistoric times. He's probably one of the few villains who actually scared me when I was a kid.
Awesome!
I have but one thing to say about Dimitri.
Greasy sweet!
You know, cut backstory and stages aside, I can't really say all that much about Rajan. Good thing he has style to back it up, though.
Alright!
The Contessa. Solid design, had two really fun, spooky stages, and some witty dialogue. Overall, very solid villain.
Alright!
Jean Besson. Not gonna lie, I had fun in his stages. Also, the Lumberjack games were a riot.
Brutal!
Arpeggio. All that build up for a major disappointment. At least he's got style.
Blast!
Constable Neela. Oh boy, I have some thoughts on her. On one hand, you have some really strong visual designs that obviously tie her to Rajan, but her backstory tying her to him was cut. So what do we have left? A manipulative double-crosser who jumps in at the last moment to upstage the mastermind behind the Claw Gang and cosplay as the last game's main villain. Yeah, I'm kind of salty. Though she did make the main plot interesting, so I'll cut her some slack there.
Awesome!
Mick Sweeney. I am only including him because he sets off the plot of the third game. Despite his association with Sly's dad, he's not shown nearly enough.
Crazy!
Don Octavio. Another strong first villain. Also, he had one of the best moments in the series. Makes me laugh every time.
Blast!
The Guru was Murray's mentor during the time in between the second and third games. Not so much to say about him because a lot of his characterization is hidden behind an unsubtitled language that I highly doubt is really Aboriginal.
Blast!
Look, the only reason anybody remembers the Mask of Dark Earth is because it turned Carmelita into a giant and you could climb on her. Enough said.
Crazy!
Penelope, an adorable little RC enthusiast with a penchant for disguises. She really had good chemistry with Bentley, and had a few good moments in the third game. Boy, do I have some things to say about her when I eventually cover Sly 4, cause shit happens.
Awesome!
General Sal, pun's a bit on the nose, but he's a really good foil to Sly. Also, his boss fight was really fun.
Brutal!
Captain Lafouille.
Do what you want as a pirate, free. You are a pirate.
But certainly not least, Dr. M, the brains of the old Cooper Gang. His visual design is rather simple, yet the devil's in the details. Sure, he's just a mandrill in a lab coat, which would suffice for any other project, yet his head jack is what really makes the design work. He uses that little jack to plug into all manner of gadget, from flying machines, giant mutants, and that spider chases he uses in the final battle. As for his character, we have a lot to unpack with this guy. When he was with Sly's father, he was the brains of the gang. He believed himself superior to Sly's father. This inevitably wound up with a falling out. Once Sly's father died, M went to Cane Island and tried to break into the family vault for like 20-something years, and he still couldn't break it. Though, that's beside the point. He is essentially a foil to Bentley, going so far as to try to tempt the turtle to turn on Sly. The thing is that Sly's gang is far more tight-knit than his father's gang. The main trio grew up together in an orphanage, stealing cookies from the headmistress. The bond those three hold is near unbreakable, even when they're far apart. Regardless, he's a very good villain for what was the last game at the time. Then we got this bag of...
Awesome!
Well, if you made it this far, I just want to say thank you for watching the video all the way through. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. The Sly Cooper series really means a lot to me. It's one of the big video game series that really got me into the hobby and began shaping my tastes. Most of the main cast are very solid characters, with only a handful of the cast being forgettable. If you have any suggestions for the next episode of Design Dungeon, by all means leave a comment below. I'll be seeing you all in the next episode of Design Dungeon.